Today we are going to learn about the preparation of the emulsions. There are so many methods are available for the preparation of the emulsions on a small scale. What they are means dry gum method, wet gum method, bottle method and some other methods. So measure the required quantity of the oil in a dry measure first and then transfer it into a dry mortar. As it is a dry gum method, so we are not using the water here. Add the calculated amount of the gum acacia into it and then triturate rapidly so as to form a uniform mixture. So and then add required quantity of the water and triturate vigorously till a clicking sound is produced and the product becomes white or nearly white, and the emulsion produced at this stage is known as the primary emulsion. So we have to take care until we will get the clicking sound. We should have to stir continuously, so we should not give any gap at while trituration. Once you give a gap means there will be a chance of the interpretation of the air into it, and that may cause cracking of the emulsion. Okay, so we have to triturate continuously until we will get the primary emulsion. Once we get the primary emulsion, then the process will be easy for us to form a final product. And then add more of the water to produce the required volume here. So the following table shows the proportion of the oil is to water is to gum acacia required for different types of oils. So we'll see the table here. In this table it has various oils like fixed oils, volatile oils and mineral oils. Fixed oils like castor oil, almond oil, arachis oil and cod liver oil. For this oil is to water is to gum ratio is 4:2:1. Next type of oil is the volatile oil like turpentine oil, peppermint oil and cinnamon oil. For this oil is to water is to gum ratio is 2:2:1. Okay, and mineral oils like liquid paraffin, for this ratio is 3:2:1. Okay, according to these ratios we have to take the oils and water and gum required for the emulsions. Okay, let us see one example here. And prepare and dispense 100 ml of the arachis oil emulsion using a dry gum method. So in this formula it has an arachis oil of 50 ml and purified water up to 200 ml. Okay, make an emulsion. So that is the formula given here. So hint, the arachis oil is a fixed oil, and as per the table the proportion of the oil is to water is to gum for preparing the primary emulsion is 4:2:1. Okay, the arachis oil is fixed oil. We have to take oil is to water is to gum ratio is 4:2:1. Okay, so the formula for the primary emulsion is arachis oil 50 ml, water 25 ml, acacia powder 12.5 grams. Okay, calculation. So approximate volume of the primary emulsion is equal to 87.5 ml. Okay, total volume of the emulsion is 200 ml. So the volume of the water required here is 200 minus 87.5. So that is equal to 112.5 ml. Okay, so that is the water required for the preparation here. So according to the calculation we have to take the ingredients like that. So method. So measure the required quantity of the arachis oil in a dry measure and then transfer it into a dry mortar. After that add the calculated quantity of the gum acacia powder and triturate rapidly to form a uniform mixture here. So add the required quantity of the water and triturate vigorously till a clicking sound is produced and the product becomes white. Okay, after that add the remaining quantity of the water to produce the required volume here. Transfer the emulsion into a final bottle and then label it and then dispense. Next method is the wet gum method. In this method the proportion of the oil is to water is to gum for preparing the primary emulsion is same as that of the before table. Okay, in this method calculate the quantity of the oil, water and gum required for the preparing the primary emulsion first. After that powder the gum acacia in a mortar and then add water and triturate it with gum so as to form a mucilage here. So after that, add the required quantity of the oil in small proportion with a rapid trituration until a clicking sound is produced and the product becomes white or nearly white. At this stage, the emulsion is known as primary emulsion. Okay. As this is a wet gum method, we are adding water at the starting stage only. Okay. So here add more of the water in a small proportion to the primary emulsion with the trituration to produce the required volume here, and then stir thoroughly so as to form a uniform emulsion, and then transfer the emulsion to a bottle, cork it, label and dispense. Okay, so we'll see example for this. So prepare and dispense the following emulsion like castor oil 8 ml, water add up to 30 ml, make an emulsion and 120 ml. So direction for use is 1 tablespoonful to be taken before going to bed. In this, castor oil is a fixed oil. So the proportion of oil is to water is to gram for preparing the primary emulsion is 4:2:1. Okay. So for the formula for the primary emulsion, so we need to calculate the formula for the primary emulsion first. For this we have to take castor oil 32 ml, water 16 ml and gum acacia 8 grams. So calculation, how to calculate means, so approximate volume of the primary emulsion is equal to 56 ml here. So the total volume of the emulsion required is 120 ml. So volume of the water needed to be dilute the primary emulsion is equal to 120 minus 56, that is equal to 64 ml. Okay, 64 ml of the water is required for to prepare the primary emulsion here. Method, powder the gum acacia, toss into a mortar, add water and triturate to form a mucilage here. As it is a wet gum method, we are adding the water at the starting stage. So add the required quantity of the castor oil in a small proportion with rapid trituration until a clicking sound is produced and the product becomes white or nearly white. And then add more of the water in a small proportion to the primary emulsion with trituration to produce the required volume. So transfer the emulsion to a bottle, label it and dispense. Sometimes the primary emulsion is not formed properly and the contents of the mortar becomes oily, thin and translucent. So this is mainly due to the phase inversion. So the product which has becomes a W by O emulsion instead of O by W cannot be diluted with water and so it may be discarded. So this occurs mainly due to so many reasons like the ratio of the oil and the water is not proper, or maybe use of the poor quality of the gum acacia. So there is a insufficient shear between the mortar base and the pistil head, and there is a excessive mixing of the oil and the gum, or maybe the primary emulsion is diluted at an early stage. So there is a cross contamination of oil and water, and there is a rapid dilution of the primary emulsion. So all these reasons may cause the breaking of the emulsion. Okay, and third method is the bottle method. So bottle method is used for preparing of the emulsions of the volatile and other non-viscous oils. The proportion of the oil is to water is to gum is 2:2:1. Okay, so in this method measure the required quantity of the oil and transfer it into a large bottle. Add the required quantity of the powder gum acacia. Shake the bottle vigorously until the oil and the gum are mixed thoroughly. Add the calculated amounts of the water all at once. Shake the mixture vigorously to form a primary emulsion. Add more of the water in a small proportion with constant agitation to produce the required volume. Okay, so this is all about the bottle method, and some other methods are also there. Various blenders and homogenizers are used for preparing the emulsions like hand homogenizer, silver sun mixer homogenizer and colloidal mills are some of the homogenizers which are used for preparation of the extemporaneous emulsions here. These homogenizers are based on the principle that the large globules in a coarse emulsion are broken into a smaller globules by passing them under pressure through a narrow orifice. Here the coarse emulsion is prepared in a mortar which is then transferred into a hand homogenizer, and the emulsion is passed to the homogenizer many times till an emulsion of a desired satisfaction is produced. Okay, and the colloidal mills are used to produce in a very fine emulsion having a globule size less than 1 micron on large scale manufacture. Okay, hand homogenizer. So the homogenizer is a hand operated and the coarse emulsion is passed through a fine orifice, and the emulsion is placed in the hopper of the homogenizer first, and the up and the down movements of the handle causes the coarse emulsion to draw in through inlet valve and pass through the homogenizing valve. Okay, in this way the emulsion is forced to pass through the fine orifice, and the oil globules are broken into fine globules of the uniform size. Okay, Silverson mixer homogenizer. It consists of an emulsifier head which is covered with fine mesh stainless steel sieve. The emulsifier head consists of number of blades which rotate at a very high speed in order to produce a powerful shearing action. The blades are rotated by using an electric motor fitted at the top. The emulsifier head is placed in a vessel containing immiscible liquids in such a way that it should get dipped into it. Okay, when the motor is started, what will happen? The liquids are sucked through the fine holes and the oil is reduced into fine globules due to the rotation of the blades here. So a fine emulsion is produced which is then expelled out. The intake and the expulsion of the mixture set up a pattern of circulation here. Okay, and next one is the stability of the emulsion. An emulsion is said to be stable if it remains as such after its preparation, that is, the dispensed globules are uniformly distributed throughout the dispersion media during its storage. So the emulsion should be chemically stable and there should not be any bacterial growth during its shelf life. Okay, there are three changes usually occurs during the storage of an emulsion, like cracking, creaming and phase inversion. First one is cracking. So cracking means the separation of the two layers of the dispersed and the continuous phase due to the coalescence of the dispersed phase globules which are difficult to redisperse by shaking. So cracking may occur due to various reasons, like addition of the emulsifying agents of the opposite type, or by decomposition or precipitation of the emulsifying agent, or by addition of a common solvents, or by microorganisms, or there will be a chances of changes in the temperature, or by creaming. Okay, so all these of the reasons there will be chance of cracking of the emulsion. First one is by addition of a emulsifying agent of opposite type. Soaps of the monovalent metals produce O by W type emulsion, whereas soaps of divalent metals produce W by O type emulsion. Okay, but the addition of the monovalent soap to a divalent emulsion or divalent soap to a monovalent emulsion leads to the cracking of an emulsion. Okay, and next one is the by decomposition or precipitation of the emulsifying agent. When an acid is added to an alkali soap emulsion like turpentine elements, so it causes the decomposition of the emulsifying agent and thus leads to the cracking of an emulsion. Okay, similarly when sodium chloride is added to a sodium or a potassium soap emulsions, it leads to the precipitation of the emulsifying agent and thus cracking of the emulsion takes place. Okay, or by addition of a common solvent. When a solvent is added to an emulsion which is either miscible with or dissolve the dispersed phase, the emulsifying agent and the continuous phase, there is a formation of one phase or a clear solution. So this leads to the cracking of the emulsion. For example, addition of alcohol to the turpentine element leads to the formation of a clear solution because turpentine oil, soft soap and water are soluble in alcohol. Okay, by microorganisms. So if emulsions are not stored properly, they may be develop a chances of bacteria and the molds growth. So this may leads to the destruction of the emulsifying agent and causes the cracking of the emulsion obviously. So therefore it is desirable that all the emulsions which are required to be stored for long period should be suitably preserved. And next one is changes in the temperatures. When emulsions are stored for a long time, an increases in the temperature may reduces the viscosity of the emulsion and encourages the creaming. So when emulsions are stored at a very low temperature, what will happen? The freezing of its water content into ice and the subsequent melting of the ice and shaking may reform the emulsion. Next one is creaming. So what is creaming? So creaming may be defined as the upward movement of the dispersed globules to form a thick layer at the surface of the emulsion. So creaming is a temporary phase, therefore it can be redistributed by mild shaking or stirring to get again a homogeneous emulsion. So as far as the possible creaming of the emulsion should be avoided because it may leads to cracking with a complete separation of two phases. So according to the Stokes law, the rate of the creaming depends on the number of factors which can be explained here in this equation, that is V is equal to 2r square into d1 minus d2 into z by 9 eta. In this equation following here, in this equation V is equal to rate of creaming, R is equal to radius of the globules, d1 is equal to density of the dispersed phase and d2 is equal to density of the continuous phase, g is equal to gravitational constant and is the viscosity of the dispersion media. Okay, the first factor is the radius of the globules. So the rate of the creaming is directly proportional to the radius of the globules here, and the larger the size of the globules, the more will be the creaming, and smaller the size of the globules, there will be less creaming. So the smaller globules will rise the less quickly than the large globules. So hence creaming can be reduced by reducing the size of the globules by passing the emulsion through a homogenizer. And next one is the differences in the density of the dispersed phase and the continuous phase. So the rate of the creaming depends upon the difference between the densities of the dispersed phase and the continuous phase here. So greater the difference, more will be the creaming. So this difference can be reduced, but it not desirable because it is not required therapeutically. And next one is the viscosity of the dispersion media. So the rate of the creaming is inversely proportional to the viscosity of the dispersion media. The viscosity can be increased by adding a tragacanth and a methyl cellulose. But too much viscosity is undesirable because it may produce a difficulty to redisperse the material which may settle at the bottom. So moreover it is difficult to pour the emulsion from the container. Okay, storage conditions. So the emulsion should be stored in a cool place because the rise in the temperature reduces the viscosity which may lead to the creaming. So the freezing should be avoided because it may lead to the cracking. The next one is the phase inversion. So phase inversion means the name itself indicates that the change of one type of emulsion into other type, that is oil in water emulsion changes into water in oil type and vice versa. Okay, it may be due to various reasons like by addition of a electrolytes or by changing the phase volume ratio or by temperature changes or by changing the emulsifying agent. So the phase inversion can be minimized by keeping the concentration of the dispersed phase between 30 to 60%, storing the emulsion in a cool place and by using a proper emulsifying agent in an adequate concentration. Storage of the emulsions. So containers. So the emulsion should be packed in a container which is having an adequate airspace above the emulsion so as to permit the adequate shaking before its uses. The emulsions which are made for the internal use should be packed in a comparatively wide mouth bottles so that it is very easy to remove it without any difficulty. And metallic closures should be avoided. Wide mouthed amber color glass bottles are most appropriate for the storage of the emulsions. Next one is the labeling. So a secondary label shake well before use is required to be fixed on the bottle. And storage, an emulsion should be stored in an airtight container protected from the light, high temperatures or freezing, and then the emulsions are required to be stored in a cool place. So this is all about the emulsions. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel for more and more videos.